right.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Ben.
Sir?
Mr. Mayor, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
All right? Everything good?
I'm good.
All right.
Chris.
Nice to see you. How are you?
All right.
Good.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Senator Cardin, for helping to and organizing this meeting, and for all the members of the delegation for attending. We know how much and how essential your support is to not me, but more importantly to the city of Baltimore. And I believe that defining what policing and public safety looks like is really the most consequential challenge facing mayors across the country. It's a challenge that I've accepted head on, and knowing that Baltimore can and will be better in dealing with both issues is something that we work towards every day. As you know, I witnessed firsthand how violence has plagued the city longer than I've been alive, but for at least 37 years for me. And I want to be very clear to point out that we know that gun violence is a public health issue, but we will address it in every way that we can, from law enforcement, from public health, from investments in people and community, but we're going to do it, all of it. Nothing is replaceable in that fight. Every piece to the pie is just as important as the other, and we will collaborate and coordinate in every way, and we know that you all are some of our biggest partners in doing that. Now, we cannot continue to, as I say to the police commissioner every day, overburden and over-rely on his women and men to help us solve every issue in the city. There are things that they should be focused on that we're going to talk about today, like gun trafficking and our homicides and our shootings, but there are things that other folks should be focused on that they should not, to allow them to focus in on their work. Tackling this Baltimore's most persistent issue requires a collaborative effort, data-driven approach, and it's each and every one of our responsibility to play our part in doing that. So I look forward to providing updates from us on what we've been working on and things that we've been working on together from my team, and I'm excited to explore, as always, more ways that we can partner with the delegation, federal law enforcement agencies, our U.S. Attorney, who we already have a great working relationship with, to make Baltimore a safer place. And I'll turn it over to the delegation chair for some opening remarks before we present some things to you guys.
Well, Mayor Scott, first of all, thank you very much. When I requested that we have this meeting, you were extremely cooperative and excited about bringing us all together, and I thank you for that. As I understand, this is one of the very first meetings in person in City Hall. So
The first,
okay. I think that speaks to the importance of this subject, but also that we are getting back to a more normal way. We're not through COVID-19 yet, but we are certainly doing much better, and we look forward to the light at the end of the tunnel where we can have these types of in-person meetings, because we think it's very important that we are able to talk not through Zooms anymore, not through the internet. So that's a real plus. Secondly, this is one of our top priorities for our federal congressional delegation. We've had many discussions on how we can help Baltimore deal with the public safety issues. We've done that as a delegation. We've done that in our conversations with the Biden administration. Each member of this delegation has made the priority of Baltimore safety a key part of their work on their committees and their requests for federal partnership through the appropriation process. And we'll have a chance to talk about that in today's discussion. Our strong desire is to help you bring down violence in Baltimore. We know it's not an easy situation, but the current level of violence is unacceptable, and we are committed to working with you to bring that down. I'm pleased that you mentioned John Lindsler, our acting U.S. Attorney. We've had discussions with him. We've had briefings in regards to the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force and its work here. So we have partnerships that we want to work together with you, and we have opportunities. As President Biden says, we have a once-in-a-generational opportunity to really build back better. Build back better means a safer Baltimore. And we're committed to using this opportunity to help you have the tools you need to make Baltimore a safer community for its citizens and for the guests to come into Baltimore. So I look forward to our discussion, and again, thank you for making these arrangements.
thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We just finished having a wonderful meeting with our congressional delegation around crime and violence in the city and ways that we can further our great partnerships with the federal government, and we'll take a couple questions. Yes?
Yeah, hi, Peter Sumner with the Afro-American newspaper in Baltimore. A lot of people say that, gun crime and violence is only a symptom of the cause, and what we see the cause is the huge economic disparity in the East and West Baltimore, and really reflected by food deserts. Because everywhere there's food deserts, there's huge gun crime, and the food deserts are because there's not the investments in these neighborhoods, and you have all these guys like Leg Mason, Transamerica. What will you do to get the investments and the jobs to these areas?
Well, we know that all of that plays a part in what we're talking about, the historic disinvestment in neighborhoods, is particular black neighborhoods in East and West Baltimore, all the areas where you see violence. And we think that it's a total, complete picture. It's about, and as you know, as the person who passed Baltimore's equity law and now will be directing our agencies to invest in those areas that have been disinvested in, not just in bricks and mortar, but the people. It's the same thing that we've been directing folks around how we're going to use the funds that our wonderful federal delegation guys in ARP, focusing on the people and neighborhoods that have been forgotten. However, we will still and always will focus on people and hold people accountable who are committing acts of violence, who are trafficking weapons into the city, and hold those folks accountable. It's not doing either or, it's about doing both. Next. Yeah.
First, let me just agree with the mayor. The violent crime issue in Baltimore needs to change. There's no simple answer to it. The type of violence is personal. That is, it's persons who know each other, killing them and hurting people. We've got to respond to that. We need to bring down the homicide rate in Baltimore. And the federal delegation will work in partnership with the mayor. We have a task force, the federal task force that's working on violent crime in Baltimore, in which the city closely coordinates its work. We've got to deal with the most violent groups in Baltimore and root them out and get them out of the neighborhood. We have to provide community partnerships in communities so that there are services available. We have to deal with reentry. We have to deal with all these issues. It's not, we have to deal with the guns and knowing where the guns are. There's a lot of issues that we have to deal with, and the federal delegation is committed to working with the mayor to provide support and help to bring down the violence in Baltimore. We have confidence that we can do this. We know it's not easy, but there's no simple answer to this problem.
Could you give us some examples of, you just rattled off those different issues, some examples of what you all discussed to grow that?
So thank you, Alexa. It's about when you're talking about guns, right? We know that we've asked about having increased ATF participation in the city of Baltimore. We're hopeful to do that. We've been having great conversations with the president and now with our congressional delegation, and we look forward to seeing that. When you talk about support for mental health and behavioral health, we know that Senator Van Hollen and the rest of the delegation are looking to support our 911 diversion efforts that will alleviate police's responsibility to deal with behavioral and mental health issues so that they can focus on violence. Anybody else?
I have a for the congressional members, we've heard from gun experts who say that the Maryland's laws are only as strict as those in other states. We're seeing the trafficking happen, those guns being brought into the city. What can you do at the federal level to address that? And have you had any conversations about potential legislation to do that?
Well, sure. Look, Maryland is not an island. We do have a strict Maryland gun law, including our permit to purchase law, but it's pretty clear that we need a comprehensive national strategy when it comes to gun safety. Senator Cardin and the members of the House delegation here have been pushing very hard for universal background check provisions. Our House colleagues passed H.R. 8 to do it. We're working to get that done in the Senate. But I do want to emphasize the point my colleagues have been making, which is it's a comprehensive strategy. You have to do exactly what you said. You also have to make sure that ATF has the resources and leadership it needs to track down all the illegal gun running operations and be able to trace guns used in crimes to hold people accountable. You need the prevention. Early opportunity is obviously one important part of the strategy. And finally, and President Biden has talked about this, and Baltimore is part of it. The mayor was at the White House recently, is the whole idea of community-based initiatives and programs, neighborhood grassroots level programs to help address these issues. So I think our overall message in conversation was doing one thing is not enough. You need a comprehensive strategy, and that's what we hope to deliver.
Monday to Monday, there were 23 shootings. Last week to today, a third of those were teens. Your message, what are y'all's plans that you guys come up with so far? They're going to address youth violence specifically.
We're going to continue to focus on youth violence through all our interventions. We're going to focus, obviously, we have the police department focus each and every day on people who are operating violent groups and using guns to commit those crimes. We're going to continue our great programs like we have at ROCA to identify young people who are at risk and help them to get them out of that. We're going to support community organizations, as you heard from the senator, that are doing work to help young people turn themselves around. But the most important thing that we're going to do is we're going to go down and hunt these people down who are shooting our babies like we have been, and bringing them to justice, and then turning them over to the other parts of the system and work with them to make sure that these folks are held accountable, because we know, again, that people are shooting people over stupid stuff now in the city of Baltimore, and they don't care how old or how young you are. But when it comes to our babies in particular, we're going to make sure that we track those people down.
Thank you all.
Thank you.